Brief video today, 1978's The Chant of Jimmie Blacksmith, directed by Schepisi. An Australian production and a manifestation of 1970s new wave ambitions, Jimmie Blacksmith remains a powerful film, and a tremendous export of this nation's cinema. One of the most brutally morally grey films I've ever seen, there are little to no sympathetic characters in Jimmie Blacksmith, only a cycle of violence, hatred, revenge, and carnage. No one sincerely benefits. I very much wanted the opportunity to promote this picture. I'm unaware to what degree it is known outside of Australia or New Zealand. If one is interested in exploring not only Australian cinema, but witnessing a portrayal of life on the continent in the years leading up to Federation, Jimmie Blacksmith is stellar. Based off of a novel by Australian author Thomas Keneally, best known for writing Schindler's Ark, somewhat surprisingly, the story of Jimmie Blacksmith is said to have been inspired, although not illustrative of, an Aboriginal Australian bushranger named Jimmy Governor, who lived from 1875 until 1901. I think it is incredibly useful that an Australian film exists which so candidly depicts the ubiquitous abusive racism which was just rampant at one time in history. Even though there is more awareness and education toward this ugly heritage right now more than ever before, I really don't see films as honest or brutal in their depiction of that historical suffering. 2004's Rabbit-Proof Fence was not a serious attempt to inform contemporary Australians about the atrocity of the stolen generation. If anything, it tried to exploit it for the sake of extracting some horrible domestic festival fodder. Or, if I'm being less charitable, to sugarcoat certain crimes from Australia's past for vaguely political purposes. During the John Howard era, downplaying the facts of history was unspoken legislation. That all being said, praising this film for an apparent social consciousness, you might recall that I mentioned earlier how this is a morally grey film. It absolutely is, and this really manifests in its second half after a particular incident, and one of the most audacious scenes ever shot in Australian narrative cinema, maybe the most up to that point in time. Jimmie Blacksmith is corrupted by his hatred and resentment, justified though it could be, of his employers, and commits crimes which ultimately serve to alienate those who initially supported him unequivocally. This is most manifest through Jimmie's loyal, to a point, brother Mort. It is important not to view this film as some vulgarly gung-ho revenge venture, as I am slightly concerned it has been marketed as in recent years. The reason I say that is there is a certain Blu-ray cover art which was recently packaged with the film, and I feel as though this artwork, presumably designed by a white person, reduces the struggle for racial justice and equality to some disgusting Django Unchained-inspired payback time slop. Firstly, I feel as though it certainly comes across as, frankly, quite racist, drawing on old stereotypes that relate to an alleged savagery, which one would never associate with a depiction of the Indian struggle for independence, for example. Secondly, I think reducing anthropogenic disasters to genre pulp is generally just fucking gross. I'll never forget at some point during late 2012 or early 2013, around the time of Django Unchained's initial release, Spike Lee was quoted as saying, "Slavery was not a spaghetti western, it was a holocaust." I quite enjoyed Tarantino's filmography overall, but I considered Django Unchained to be tasteless, unimaginative, and to deny this is to lose all of one's intellectual credibility, dull, pandering narcissism. I may come across as some pseudo-subversive, burn it all to the ground crank, but I love Australia. I love Australians, and Aboriginal Australians are Australians. We as a nation ought not stand for the downplaying, or worse, and God forbid, denial of grievous atrocities committed against fellow Australians. You might be thinking, how does one deny that? Didn't the British keep extensive records of even their crimes against humanity? Oh, they did. You see, we have a chap named Keith Windschuttle who decided he loved the taste of the Howard government's dick and began falsifying long-established history as a modest thank you. Actually, Windschuttle had probably been blowing Howard himself since their Canterbury Boys high school days. Yes, they were literally schoolmates. What a demented timeline. But I implore anyone to view The Chant of Jimmie Blacksmith, and do tell me what you think of it.